Hi, everybody. Welcome to Dive Deep. I'm Shelby Cornett. I'm the ministry assistant at Cambridge City Christian Church, and I'm with Danny, our lead pastor.
Yes, that wasn't one of your better introductions.
I know. Well, I was told I had to be good this time.
Yeah, last week you were a
I'm-
little bit off the rail.
I
there a
know.
little bit, yeah.
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 So I'm going to try to be nice and
Mhm.
keep it normal. So
Okay.
I'm working on it. But I do
Okay.
think last night I kind of got a little bit of payback for calling you old.
Oh, yeah?
'Cause we played softball,
Right, right.
and I'm sore. I didn't even play much.
I'm not going to say anything. Not
So.
going to say anything.
And Danny's not sore, so
And I played last night,
more than I did.
and I ran, and yeah.
Yeah. I'm getting payback. I hurt from running. Travis is sore from getting out of bed this morning. All right. So, I'm being good today, so we're going to get right into it.
Okay.
So, we continued our series Sunday
Mm-hmm.
of the things Jesus never said.
Mm-hmm.
And this week, we talked about how we will never have bad days,
Mm-hmm.
or so Jesus did not say.
Yeah, something Jesus never said, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm just going to get right into my notes.
Go for it.
Okay.
Go for
I
it.
didn't really have questions, just
Mhm.
like things that made my head turn, I guess.
Okay.
Just
All right.
thoughts.
I'll take, yeah, those will work.
So, as we were reading, it was
Mhm.
John 16.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jesus literally says that life's going to be tough
Yeah.
and that we will have trouble, not you might have trouble.
Mhm.
It's no matter what, it's going to be tough.
Yep. Yep.
And I thought in the first verse we read, I don't remember which one it was, but when others around us will be joyful, I don't know if that's the word he used.
Mm-hmm.
It almost seems like sometimes when you think this isn't fair, like life's not
Mhm.
fair, that's what
Mhm.
it made me think of. Like
Yeah.
all these people are happy and like, why is this happening to me? I'm doing all the right things.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of that idea that why do bad things happen to good people?
yeah.
And as a person who follows Jesus, I mean, bad things shouldn't happen. But then we have Jesus here saying, yeah, they do. You know, it's guaranteed that it's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
You know, when you were saying that a minute ago, quick question for you. So you're a relatively new Christian, you know, relatively new Christ follower. Did you ever have maybe a little bit of that mindset that maybe your life would get easier or better by putting your faith in Jesus? Like that there would be an ulterior result or benefit?
I think I thought I would be able to handle it better,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
And I think
yeah.
in some ways I
Mhm.
am, but I have a long way to go. Like
Mhm.
I still have those thoughts like, why is this happening to me? Like what did I do?
So that's interesting you say that. So you felt like you were going to be able to handle things better, but then that hasn't always been the case. I mean,
No.
okay. I mean, I'm not saying that to give you a hard time because I mean, same thing here. I mean, I've been a Christian since I was 9 years old, and I still don't handle things, I think, the best way, even after all these years.
And I think before I became a Christian, it was like, for example, when I had Jackson, things didn't go the way we thought when he was born. He had to be intubated, like all
Right.
this stuff.
Right.
And I remember, like, I was angry. Like, I did not handle well, whereas now I would probably
I see.
I would still be upset,
Well, sure, yeah.
but
yeah.
I think the way I handle it now would be different. Whereas I was like, why is this happening? Like,
That's really good.
what did I
because
do?
I think sometimes what we've done is we have mixed up circumstances with perspective. So what we do is we think, okay, this circumstance, because I'm a Jesus follower, this circumstance shouldn't be happening. No, God, sometimes there's circumstances that God allows to happen that we don't understand. It's about perspective. And I think that's what Jesus is getting at here. He's saying that you're going to have bad days, but you're going to have a different perspective on those bad days.
Yeah.
and that's what gets us through is the perspective. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the circumstances that we face as Christ followers are every bit as worse, and I would even argue for some of our brothers and sisters around the world is even worse than a person that isn't a Christian.
Yeah.
But the perspective of ours is different,
Mm-hmm.
and but yet I think some people maybe think that when they put their faith in Jesus, it's going to change their circumstance. No,
Mm-hmm.
but it changes your perspective.
Yes.
Yeah. So like when you mentioned Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
you know, before you became a Christ follower, you were upset about it, but maybe now if that were to happen, you wouldn't. And why would that be? Because you
Just-
have a different perspective. You have a more eternal perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and it changes the way you see it.
And I even remember right after he was born, everything was so fast, and
yeah,
I don't remember everything
yeah,
but I remember my grandma saying like, God is taking care of him. Like, and
Mhm.
I don't know why it made me mad that she said that.
yeah, yeah.
At the time, I was like,
Sure.
but that shouldn't be the case. Like, he should just be okay.
Yeah,
because
we shouldn't even be here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Circumstance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas now, maybe I'm not quite as far along as she is,
Mhm.
but I like to think I would lean more towards that now.
And you kind of understand more now why she said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you
Like, it's
didn't
his
at the time.
plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good stuff, Shelby.
Yeah.
You're doing a good job with this podcast so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This week's better,
You're
right?
doing much better. Yeah. Wow.
But-
okay.
And that was another thing I wrote down was like I admire people because I'm not quite there yet
Yeah.
who can stay strong in their faith when things are rough
Mhm.
because that's hard to do. Even as a as a
Yeah.
Christian, no matter how far along I think you
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
that when you get bad news about health like you mentioned Sunday
Mhm.
or like Jackson,
Right.
Like-
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
stuff like that, it's not always your first thought to think, okay, God,
No.
okay, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because again, our broken nature, when we think of our brokenness or our sinful nature, we tend to think of the bad things we do as a
Mhm.
result of being sinful. But I think what we have to remember is that it affects every part of us. So we know that sin has brought death into the world, but sin has also brought discouragement and pain and suffering. I mean, all of these things. And so when you're going into a tough circumstance where the circumstance is tough, it affects the way you look at things. It affects your sin affects your perspective. That's why when Jesus came to die on the cross and he saves us, it's not just about saving us from sin. There's also a shame. There's also a guilt that has also been removed by the cross. And so it gives you a different perspective on how you look at things. So don't think that Jesus' death, I hope no one ever thinks that Jesus' death is just simply limited to forgiving our sins and helping us get to heaven. Because, I mean, those are the answers that you hear when you're in like first grade,
Yeah.
when you answer, why did Jesus die on the cross? To forgive me of my sins so I can go to heaven. Hopefully, as we grow in our faith and mature in our faith, we realize that it's beyond just those things.
Right.
He changes our mindsets and our perspectives as well.
And I'm to the point, like in my walk, I guess, that I'm starting to learn that.
yeah.
So I'm getting past the first grade stage.
Yeah, well, good job, Shelby. Yeah, and it does take time. I mean, I've been a Christian now for 20. Well, I never thought about it. I'd be coming up on 25 years, and actually more than that, 35 years. 35 years. Yeah, Travis is shaking his head like, yeah, good job, Shelby. Don't make fun of me, all right? Yeah, 35 years I've been a Christian almost, and I'm still working on stuff. I mean, it's hard.
I think before I became a Christian, I never would have said being a Christian is hard. But it is
It is very hard. It is very hard, and that's why I appreciate what Jesus said in the text there in John, because he just laid it out. He's like, I'm not going to sit here and try to,
Not sugarcoating it.
yeah, I'm not going to sugarcoat this thing. These are the facts, because this world that you're in, it's not your home.
Yeah.
So,
That was my
like, if you
other
ever,
thing I wrote down.
what were you going to say?
It said we do not belong to the world.
Yeah,
And he said world so many times.
yeah.
And it made me think, I know you hate country music, but We've been talking about
Well,
this.
I knew somewhere along this podcast that we would go.
It's
It would
but
go
it's
bad.
not about guns and dogs and stuff.
You came this close, Shelby, to
I
having the
almost had a
perfect
successful
podcast. And
podcast.
yeah, no, I'm
But-
sorry. Go ahead.
Carrie Underwood
Okay.
sings that song "Temporary Home." I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
No.
It's okay, but that's what it's about.
Yes.
And it's about, like, it says, "This is my temporary home. It's not where I belong."
Mm-hmm.
And it's talking about, like, all of this is temporary.
Yes.
Your bad days, your
Mm-hmm.
all the junk is
Mhm.
temporary.
Right. Yeah. And all the stuff you have,
Mhm.
that's something, it's interesting you bring that up. That's something that has really been not weighing. It's just been in my mind a lot over the
Mhm.
last few months, is just looking at people and realizing, like, for instance, here's a weird thought and a maybe kind of think about this. We're having this discussion here right now,
Mhm.
but 100 years from now,
Right.
this podcast will be said and done and probably not seen again. Now, one of the beauties with nowadays is we record stuff, but
Mhm.
I think of people like 150, 200 years ago
Mhm.
that, like, they were here and they had,
And
they did the same things we do, right? Like,
Mhm.
they went to the store, they would clean their house.
had
They had
families.
families and,
Mhm. And now
you
it
know,
here on
it's
Earth,
temporary.
it's like their existence never happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where
It's kind of freaky.
it is kind of freaky. Like, at some point to the world,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be like we never exist. Like, I drive by cemeteries and I look over at the cemeteries and I look and I think, those were people like me, going to work, going
They
to
each had a lifetime.
Yeah. And so it really brings into perspective how important it is to think of our eternity, because one day the stuff that we're doing now, nobody,
Mhm.
they've said, I've heard it said many times, that the grave is the great equalizer.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether you're rich, poor, your race, your,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, we're all going to end up dead. And so it comes down to really who your faith is in and what you're doing to impact this world right now, what God sees. Because in his mind, the temporal things we're doing now aren't temporal. That's something that I don't know people have thought of. But when we do good and we help others, that's something that's in the mind of God for eternity. Whereas for us, we die.
Yeah.
But it's in the mind of God. And then as our souls go to be with the Lord, we carry those things with us as well. The blessings that come from that. But think about that. It is pretty eye-opening.
Yeah,
humbling.
it is. That's what I was just thinking. We could have used the cemetery in the sermon on Sunday.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
bad days are now, but
Yeah. Yep. Good days are ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny is if you're a Christ follower, a cemetery is probably a joyful place in some ways.
Mhm.
I know that sounds freaky, but as a Christ follower, it's harder to live life. But
Mhm.
when you're dead, you're with the Lord. So it's kind of a
like a celebration.
celebratory place,
A weird celebratory
Yes,
place.
it is. Yes, it is. It is. But but again, it's about your perspective, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not about the circumstance.
It's like people who say they want a celebration of life rather than a funeral. It's
Yeah.
how you look at it.
Sure. Absolutely. Your perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the notes I had.
Well,
but
you did a good job.
thanks.
We'll just edit out the Carrie Underwood part.
That was important.
Okay. That was essential to this podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she does like some gospel stuff.
She does.
Too.
She does.
She's pretty good. She's
Yeah.
not backwoods country or anything, so I think we're
We
good.
apologize to those of you who watch or listen to Backwoods Country.
I listen to Backroads.
We just need to end this podcast before it gets
Yeah.
any worse. So, no.
All right.
All right.
Well, next week we're going to wrap up things Jesus never said. What's this one?
So next week it's, oh my gosh, I knew you were going to ask me that, and I have it. The sermon's already done, but that's awful. Things Jesus said. We talked last. You get what you
You
deserve.
get what you
That's right. You
deserve.
get. Thank you. You get what you
There we
deserve.
go.
Karma.
Karma. Eye for an eye.
Is that biblical?
I don't know.
We'll
Watch
find
Sunday
out.
and you'll
We'll
find out.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next week when we wrap up things Jesus never said.